listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
And welcome to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Dave Ross, Geoff Schwartz here with you on this Monday. Geoff, we got a lot to get to here. I know there's never really an offseason in the NFL, and certainly not with the front offices, as we've got some big offseason updates to get to, presented by Smirnoff, the world's #1 vodka. Please drink responsibly when you do so. Brock Purdy, he is a made man, Geoff. The Niners with a big-time deal here, $265 million contract extension. A lot of that is guaranteed money. What did you make of that move? You knew he was going to get paid. Do you think he got the right price tag, or did the Niners go over what the expected ante was?
Maybe back in my more hot take era on social media, when I felt like I had to get off the hot takes, I'd be like, oh my God, he's getting paid more than Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. How dare the Niners do this? But Dave, what was their choice? What was the option, right? Like, this is it, guys, right? You might not think Brock Purdy is worth it, or Tua Tagovailoa is worth it, or Dak Prescott's worth it, or any of these guys that are sort of in that second to maybe 2.5 tier, right? Or maybe even the 1.5 tier. They're not worth the money. But the reality of the situation and of the National Football League is you have to have a quarterback to be competitive. And that's the price to pay for a quarterback. And that's what the market tells you. Could you have gotten someone for $30 million a year? Maybe, but that's a maybe, right? Like, let's say they let Brock Purdy walk. Are you certain you get Sam Darnold this past offseason? Are you certain he's better than Brock Purdy, right? And so this was the going rate for a quarterback. They paid him what the going rate was. And yeah, it's more than other guys. So be it. That's the way the NFL works, right? The next running back will get paid more. That's why we'll be paid more. Niners knew this was coming. They will plan their roster around him. And also, I'm telling you, for Brock Purdy, I'm a 7th round pick. I didn't make that much money. I made enough. I didn't make Brock Purdy money. This story of Brock Purdy is fantastic just personally for him. Now the question becomes how the Niners build around him, because that's what you have to do, right? When you pay a quarterback as much money as they have, you have to now, they have the top of the roster that's high paid. The rest of the guys that you fill in the roster have got to be guys that they've drafted and developed. And quite frankly, they haven't done that quite yet. So that's where I'm more concerned. I'm not really concerned about paying Brock Purdy. I'm concerned about the rest of the roster. I mean, they had the 2023 draft, the 2022 draft, the 2021 draft, 2020. Like, there's not a lot of impact players in this issue. So that's my concern right now is where the impact players come out after you pay the quarterback.
I look at this too, and I want to get your thoughts on it. If you go back to, say, Jared Goff at his time with the Rams, right? And they get to a Super Bowl with Goff, and they decide we're not going to give him the big money. We're going to trade him. They make the trade for Matty Stafford. I think you could say it's clearly worked out for both sides. But this says to me that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, specifically as the GM, said, yes, he is worth this new deal. We did get him on the cheap as Mr. Irrelevant in the 7th round as the final pick of that draft. To me, it says the front office and the head coach believe he's actually worth this money. Yes, it's the going rate, to your point, Geoff. But does it also say to you that they are convinced they got the right guy? Because if they weren't, they could have gone the golf route and maybe, traded or moved on from him and said, yeah, we can get a cheaper guy in a Sam Darnold, somebody else at a much cheaper price point.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, you look at like Sam Darnold and Brock Purdy feel like sort of the same ish in the same range, just that Brock Purdy's younger, but moves a little bit better, right? When you can trade Jared Goff for a Hall of Famer and Matt Stafford, I think you do it. The question is who was that trade, right? And there's no one, quite honestly, that's available right now. Stafford had sort of played out his time in Detroit. He'd been there, 13 years and done the best he could. And it was time for him to go. I don't feel like there's anyone around the NFL that's that talented in the same boat, just sort of happened to work that in that given season. And the point you made is a good one, right? Like, if not Darnold, if not a trade, what is it? The Niners, look, Brock Purdy is an outlier in the NFL. Go through right now the entire roster of starting quarterbacks in the NFL. It's 1st round picks, like 28 of them. Then like Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts and Russell Wilson maybe, and then Brock Purdy. Like it's a complete outlier, and the Niners know that they're not finding his replacement in the draft. And as I mentioned earlier, we could go through. I mean, we could do it right now. So 2024 draft, the Niners had, we don't know yet, right? Purdy played well as a rookie. Pearsall showed some promise, but obviously, he got shot, which is crazy to say, in August and still played. I mean, unbelievable. But you look at the 2023 draft, they had no first round picks because of the Trey Lance trade, right? I think one other trade too as well. They drafted in the third round. I mean, Brown a safety, Jake Moody, impact players, hard to find there. The previous year, Drake Jackson, Davis Price, Danny Gray, Stanford Buford. Like, do you see an impact player? Can you name one right there? Trey Lance, Aaron Banks, I should say, just got picked up by someone else. Trey Sermon, Aubrey Thomas, Jalen Moore, Lenore. Like, Hafunga's not there anymore. So, like the issue is that they need to develop these guys along with Brock Purdy. If you get rid of Brock Purdy and you try to develop another quarterback, is the roster even good enough to develop that quarterback around? So like all these things, I think the factor into, let's just pay our quarterback, let's lock him into a number, and now we can go about building around him.
No matter what we think of him, whatever everybody listening thinks of, say, a Brock Purdy or a Dak Prescott, getting those big second deals like they did a couple years ago in Dallas and now in San Francisco, they believe they got the right guy to run the offenses. We'll see. Trevor Lawrence is going to be a case study there in Jacksonville. Did they overpay for him in the second deal? We'll find out how it looks here for Brock Purdy, but the Niners are convinced at $265 with that contract extension that they got their guy. I know the Patriots got a really good defensive tackle in Christian Barmore, but they couldn't use him with a health scare last year. The blood clots shut him down last year. He says, Geoff, he is back healthy and will be ready to go week one. This would be great for Mike Vrabel and certainly for the health of the young man that he's able to play football again at this level. But how concerning is that? Because it's not like, a knee or blood clots. It's a serious deal. Yeah. When you get that green light as a player, do you just have to trust that the doctors say, let's go, and I don't want to keep looking in the rear view?
Yeah, I mean, he's not the first player in sports to come back from a blood clot, right? And be able to play. And he's had nearly a year off. I'd imagine the doctors that he has seen are the best, and they've given him the AOK. Or again, they didn't rush him back. He didn't play last season. He's on, I would imagine, the right medication, and that he'll be monitored throughout the year about, if they return or if he feels a certain way to make sure to get checked out. So I would trust the staff here that he's around. And obviously, look, if he doesn't, second, third opinions are possible. And if you don't feel comfortable, then you don't have to play, right? I mean, players retire medically all the time, but it does feel like this is something that is manageable if you get out in front of it enough. And if you are able to just, to take your time and let the medicine work.
By the way, speaking of, how about Derek Carr? All of a sudden we heard about the shoulder injury leading up to the draft. And then all of a sudden, not only is it an injury, he's going to keep him out this year, he decides to retire. Speaking of players that decide that their health just isn't going to be good enough to go forward. Was that shocking to you, Geoff? Or did you think, all right, the teams kind of want him maybe to separate anyway? And so Derek Carr just took this opportunity to say, my time not only with the Saints is done, but the NFL is done.
It seems like the more we hear about this story or read about this story, it's sort of clear that the Saints, I think, had moved on just a little bit from him, and they wanted to have him be sort of in that mentor role for Tyler Shuck, and he didn't want to, which I've mentioned before, totally fine. Yep. I mean, starting quarterback's job is to make sure that they are ready themselves to play, and the offense is ready to play, and the team is ready to go, not to make sure the backup quarterback is ready to play if you get hurt or when it's his time. So I totally understand that. And someone like Carr, I think, who feels like, hey man, I got hurt a few guys last year. I put in the work for this team. Now all of a sudden, you're trying to draft my replacement. So I don't know. I don't know if Carr is totally done with football. There's times when you take a year off and the arm feels better, and all of a sudden we're back at it. But I will say, as someone who's had many surgeries, I get, man, you made $200 million and you can make more, obviously, but it feels pretty set. And I think he has, and this is an important part of this too, that not a lot of people are talking about. So a lot of guys play longer than they should because they don't envision a life outside of football. They play football their entire life. There's nothing waiting for them. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, like Carr is a pastor, right? Like he has another life waiting for him, or at least he's on that path, right? Like he
Yeah.
has something that he can look forward to. So when he retires, he just goes right into essentially his second job. And I think that is what is easier for players to retire. Now, look, he's not an ordained pastor yet, but I think he's going that direction, correct?
Yeah.
And or at least at least speaking about God and his beliefs, whatnot. But the point is, there's something post career to look forward to, right? Where he just says like, I don't want the surgery, I don't want to rehab. I played my career. Okay, I have this something to look forward to when I'm done. That really helps a lot of players retire.
Got about a minute and a half here. To that point, Jamal Adams says, the former number 6 overall pick by the Jets, he'd like to continue his career with the Jets and finish the right way. A lot of bad blood there when he was traded away, forced that trade to Seattle many moons ago. Can you go home again if you're Jamal Adams? And do you even want Jamal Adams at this point if you're the Jets?
I mean, he's trying to find a job anywhere, I would imagine, and he's just saying things. I don't know if it matters very much. I mean, I look, here's the thing about the NFL. Obviously, ownership doesn't change hands very often, but general managers and coaches change all the time. And the people that had him in the building are not there anymore. If Woody Johnson, the Jets owner, feels a certain way about this, and maybe he steps in, but otherwise, no one else there has a relationship with him. So I don't think they look at it like we can't have him in the building because we know what he's about. No one there knows him. He's not worked with this staff before.
Yeah, it seems like an odd thing. Look, and again, your point about Derek Carr and some of these other players, do they want to play too long? It feels like Jamal is trying to get that one last job in the NFL. If it works out with the Jets, that'd be an interesting reunion. But you do wonder, a lot of teams feel like they're saying, maybe the league will tell you sometimes too, when they've had enough, right? Whether or not you're going to have a job in the league or not. We'll find out if that's the case for Jamal Adams. When we come back, all the schedules, of course, are out. Which ones are the easiest? Which ones are the toughest? We'll break it down next here on the GM Shuffle.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
We are back on the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN. Dave Ross alongside Geoff Schwartz here on this Monday. And Geoff, once the schedules come out, everybody's going to look at those and say, that schedule's easy, that schedule's hard. Sometimes it's not as easy and as hard as we think, but want to give a shout out to Warren Sharp, who put together his list of the easiest and the toughest schedules here in the NFL. And Geoff, let's start off with the easiest, because I looked at it today here with Jensen Lewis on VSiN by the Book, shameless plug, 7 to 10 weekdays here on VSiN. And we did look at the Niners schedule, and it does on paper look easy. And you know this, Geoff, being a player in the league, it's never as easy as it might appear. But do you agree with Warren's assessment that they do on paper have what appears to be the easiest schedule to date?
So the way I look at schedules is not by essentially wins from last season. I look at schedules as sort of like what quarterbacks you play, right? Like that typically tends to hold. And the Niners have a 4th place schedule. So they get, I think, the Browns, Giants, and maybe Bears, I think, are the 3 like 4th place teams they get. And then they get their division, and they get the NFC South and AFC South. So like right now it's Sam Darnold, whoever plays for the Saints, Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence, Stafford, as we know, tough, Mayfield, Penix, Stroud, the Giants, Stafford again, Murray, Bryce Young, whoever the Browns are quarterback, Cam Ward, whoever's quarterbacking the Colts in week 17, and then Caleb Williams. Like, it's a super easy schedule. And, the 10.5 win total, I think you think to yourself, like, that feels way too high. I'm going to go under. I do it with caution. Look at the schedule, guys. Yeah. I mean, they don't play. Week 13 is a weather game potentially at the Browns. The other game out, on the road in the last month of the season is indoors in Indianapolis. They have like no weather games, right? They have no bad weather games. They're at Seattle week 1. Giants week 9, maybe it's a little chillier than they think, but still, like, it's just a very manageable schedule. And if they get Purdy, healthy and everyone's healthy, ready to go around Brock Purdy, I should say, they're going to do a lot of winning, man. A lot of winning.
I tend to agree. I would only play the over at plus money right now if you were looking that way for San Francisco. But I think you nailed it. And Warren Sharp did his projections based on the opponent's win-loss record here. So that's why I did grade out for the Niners have the easiest schedule. How about the Patriots? And it's interesting because you go, well, how could that be? They've got 2 against the Bills, so that's going to be tough right off the jump. But it does feel like maybe the Dolphins are taking a step back. The Jets will figure out what they look like in a rebuilding phase. Is there, and certainly for the Patriots, there's a lot of expectation, which it's hard to believe year one with Mike Vrabel. Do you see it the same way, though, that maybe the Patriots do have a softer belly in that schedule and can really maybe hit that win total over?
So it looks like they get the AFC South as well. And then the AFC North, which is a difficult time, right? I mean, but again, your crossover games, your fourth place games, Raiders are a fourth place game. So like, you have the opportunity, I think, at certain times to get these wins. It looks harder than the Niners schedule, right? I mean, at least at the moment, you get the Steelers early in the season, which Steelers are always tougher, feels like early in the season. Your last 5 games, you get the Bengals, the Giants, who knows what they're at quarterback, then Bills, Ravens, Jets, Dolphins. 6 games. I think your point though about the Jets and Dolphins kind of stepping back is a big reason why the Patriots have an easier schedule on paper.
I'm going to group the next 2 teams together, the Saints and the Falcons at 3 and 4, and Warren Sharp's projections for the easiest schedules coming up this year. That's great news for the Saints, but I think that everybody that has the Saints on their schedule looks at it as that's the winnable game. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there. Whereas with the Falcons and Michael Penix, I think there's actual optimism that they might be able to win the division this year and find their way in the playoffs. If you're the Saints, it looks like Tyler Shuck, I guess, could be the week 1 quarterback. How can I get how they have a schedule that's easy based on the wins-loss records from the opponents from a year ago. But if you're the Saints backers, I don't know how you play an over with this team because I have no idea what the quarterback position is going to look like.
No chance with New Orleans playing an over, even with their easy schedule. And this comes down to divisions, right? Like, what divisions are you playing? Like, we'll get to the Giants in a few minutes. I mean, it's just miserable. For those who are maybe unaware, if you listen to this, I think you would be aware, but I'll explain it quickly. So you play 6 games against your division, right? You play them each twice, home and away. Then you're paired up with one division in your conference and one in the other conference. So that takes up 6 plus 4 plus 4, right? You have 3 games left. And then you play the other division. You play one team in the other 2 divisions of your conference and one in the NFC of a division you haven't played, right? The one you're not playing.
Right.
And it's corresponded to where you finish. So you finish 4th place. The 3 other games, extra games against 4th place teams from last season. Okay, first place. That's why I think the NFL is great. You win, you have a tougher schedule. You lose, you have an easier schedule. But then also, if you play a division that's really hard, we'll get to the Giants in a few minutes. Sorry, you're sort of out of luck. And so you look at the teams that we're talking about so far, they get quote unquote the easier divisions to play against. And then their division is a little depressed. So that's it's worth noting here. Look, the Saints are in an interesting spot where they're going to play a young quarterback who's not very good, and they have a roster kind of going through a transition right now. The thing with the Falcons that I think is worth noting is just like the start of their schedule's tough: Bucks, Vikings, Commanders, Bills, Niners, 5 of the first 6 games. The Falcons feel like maybe an over team in the middle of the season as Michael Penix gets better and more used to playing, and some of the younger guys, especially the pass rushers we saw them draft, start getting a hang of the NFL. I would not pick the over on either of those teams right now.
I would not either. And again, you might want to wait, certainly in the Falcons, to get through the tougher part of that schedule. Maybe the win total comes down a little bit, hop back in midseason, to have a little bit of patience there. The Bills, by the way, have the 5th easiest schedule here. But I think everybody on their schedule, they look at it and go, we can meet them because we're one of the elite teams in the league. You mentioned the Giants. Warren Sharp does have them graded out by, again, wins, losses of the opponent to have the toughest schedule in the NFL. And when you look at it on paper, Geoff, it looks like a bear. It just seems like Brian Daboll and company, good luck this year. I don't know how they're competitive in that NFC East with the schedule that they have.
So the Giants 5.5 win total. Sharps are hammering the under. And
Yeah.
it's one of those things where I have a conflicting thought on it because I like to follow those guys. They've made me money over the years. Um, but more importantly, so we know that if you have two things that tend to even out over the years, injuries, right? So if you're an injured team one year, the next year you tend to be less injured. And two is record in one score games. If it's bad one year, it's pretty much good the next, not good, but better the next season. And it can be vice versa. The Chiefs, notwithstanding, we'll talk about them in a few minutes. I'd throw out their one-loss record. I do not care. That's irrelevant. I can explain why. The Giants last year were 1-8 in one-score games.
Mm.
And you got to figure that just by averages, if they go 4-4 this year in one-score games, they're going to finish over 5.5 wins. But again, how many one-score games are going to play in? Look at their schedule. Commanders, Cowboys, Chiefs, Chargers. That's the first month of the season. They're at New Orleans, then Eagles, Broncos, Eagles, 49ers. So if they're better than 1-8 during that stretch, you probably feel like you're in a good spot, right?
Yeah.
Like if they're 2-7, having upset one of those teams, I mean, they're going to be double-digit dogs at Washington. I think they're 8 points right now. Where are they at Dallas? 4 points, probably. They're not favored home against Kansas City or the Chargers. New Orleans, maybe that's even money, right? Saints may be favored by 1 in that game. Like, so, you're not favored against Philly, not favored at Denver, at Philly, not favored home against the Niners. I mean, they favored in one game this year. I don't know if they'd be favored in a game this year. A good buddy of mine, Jared Smith, put together a matrix. He basically gave a number to every one of the games this year. I'm actually going to look and see if he has the Giants here are favored. I wonder what the Giants are at. He has them. I'm going to be sure favored in one game this season. One game this season,
and that might be the one at New Orleans early on in the year.
Wow, a dog of 12 of 7 or more points. He has him down for 4 games this year, and 12 games 3 or more.
Oh. I mean, it looks unbearable if you're a Giants backer. It's not going to look a whole lot better if you're a Browns backer. They've got the second toughest schedule. And at the Lions, that's interesting to me as the third toughest schedule. Now, again, kind of like the Bills having an easy schedule on paper, I think the Lions feel like they're on par with everybody. But, Geoff, if you're playing tough game after tough game after tough game, I know the Chiefs did it last year, which was incredible. They kept pulling those games out. Do you think Detroit is good enough to be able to do the same thing?
Well, they also, it looks like, I'm looking at the schedule right now, they just sort of got unlucky not unlucky per se, but their crossover first place game is the Chiefs. So instead of playing the Texans, right, it's the Chiefs, right? Like they play the AFC West first place team, right? So they play it looks like based on schedule, they play the AFC North, and then they play the NFC East. So you get the Eagles and Commanders, right? And their crossover games, again, those ones where you play the first place team, the division you don't play, is the Rams and the Chiefs. Like when you cross over, and it wasn't the whatchamacallit, like it wasn't the Texans and someone else. Like that makes it very difficult.
It does. And again, very quickly here, Eagles have the fourth toughest schedule, and then it's the Vikings. And Geoff, in about a minute here, I look at them. I don't know what J.J. McCarthy is going to look like. I know how good they looked last year, how good they made Sam Darnold look. But are you worried about this team, or is this a KOC I trust that'll get J.J. McCarthy up to speed very quickly?
I don't think we know yet. I think are we allowed to say, like, I have no judgment on the Vikings yet? I don't know. Yes. I mean, McCarthy hasn't played. I don't know. He hasn't. He looked good in the preseason, but doesn't mean anything. So I'd answer right now is incomplete. I think the team around, they've done a good job around him of building it up, and they certainly deserve credit for what I said, kind of fixing the spine of their team, right? Offensive line in the middle, defensive line in the middle. I like that they did that, but I don't know if McCarthy could come in, and we know this system, this Shanahan McVay offense typically produces really good results with all types of quarterbacks. So you hope that McCarthy comes in, hits the ground running in year 2, but he's not a rookie, by the way, that got reps last year. Like, it's rookies at least don't play the first year. They practice, right? They might get some mop-up time at the end of games. He got none of that last season because he was hurt. So we sort of starting from square one this offseason.
Totally from square one. When we come back, how about those win totals for some of the better teams? Are they going to go over or under? That's next here on DraftKings GM Shuffle.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
We continue the GM Shuffle here on DraftKings and VSiN. Dave Ross alongside Geoff Schwartz. Now that those schedules are out, win totals are out for every team. Geoff, let's start off with some of the better teams in the league here that we think will be good again this year. So they're going to have those high win totals associated with it. How about in Charm City with the Ravens? 11.5. Now, on the surface, that feels pretty high to me when you look at the division, and we think the division is going to be really good. But the Browns might not be that good. I know it's still interdivision here. Do you start handicapping these win-loss totals by the division first and then look at the remaining schedule?
Yeah, I mean, I just sort of look at it by week, because it does I think matter sort of how these lay out. I know people make a big deal of the rest discrepancy. I've yet to actually see the numbers on whether or not that matters in the end. We talk a lot about that this time of year, and then the end of the season, it's like, oh, the team didn't have a lot of rest went 12-5. I don't know if it matters as much anymore, the way guys prepare and play, and the better teams is not concerned. But again, it's just a hard look. When you win a lot and you play in a hard division, you're going to have a very difficult schedule, and that's just the way it is. But when Lamar Jackson is healthy, all this team does is win football games. 12 wins, 13 wins, 11 wins, 14 wins. I mean, it's what they are. Even they won 10 games even in 2022 when Lamar got injured that season. And the style of play, the running the football with Derrick Henry now, the defense, they don't make special teams mistakes. And so it is certainly a team that I would look over before I look under. And I will say this as a blanket statement. You will not find me giving out over 11.5 wins ever. So I might tell you, like, yeah, I could see them doing that. But that to me is, I mean, what if Lamar is out for 2 weeks? Like your over is done. Like, what if week 17 or 18, you're not playing for much? You're done. So I would stay away from any of these overs. But look, Bills, Browns, Lions, Chiefs. I mean, good luck. I mean, it's Texans, Rams. I mean, that's the first 6 games. You finish 3-3, 4-2 in that stretch. You feel pretty good. Get a little bit of break with Bears, Dolphins. The thing about win totals and the access now to a lot of these wagers, Dave, is you can do this in the middle of the season. So let's say they start 3-3. I mean, hop on the back half of the schedule is not as bad. So I would always look to the Ravens as just a solid double-digit win team. 11.5 feels about right for them.
Yep, I tend to agree. That first game in Orchard Park against the Bills to begin the season on Sunday night. Great way to kick off the season on Sunday Night Football, the place their season ended a year ago. Eagles didn't end up their season until they won the whole thing, whole kit and caboodle, the reigning defendings now, also with a win total of 11.5. We mentioned it in the last segment, Geoff. They do have one of the tougher schedules on paper. We know the Commanders are getting better. Are the Giants? I think the Giants are better. I don't know how many games it's going to manifest itself into wins. And the Cowboys, I feel like, are the real unknown in this division. How do you look at the Eagles in respects to that 11.5 win total?
Well, they just have a lot of tough road games even too, right? They're at the Chiefs. They're at the Bucks. They're at the Bills. They obviously play at Washington. They also play the Chargers in Los Angeles. Like, they sort of just end up with the tougher games, what feels like on the road this year in these division matchups, out of division matchups. And then they end with they put Commanders for them week 16 and 18. Wow, the last 3 games. Commanders, Bills, Commanders. Wow. That's a tough way to end the season. So you better hope you bank in some wins. I mean, look, again, sort of with the Ravens, like, the Eagles model is a very consistent winning model, right? We're going to win the line of scrimmage. We're going to win by running the football and defense. We're not going to make mistakes. I mean, you're in every game. And then with Saquon Barkley, and even with Derrick Henry, going back to the Ravens for a second, the ability to close out games with those running backs is very impressive. I think we noticed it even more last year with Derrick Henry, where the Ravens over the years have had a little bit of trouble at the end of games, like closing out games and winning. Not anymore. Like not, and so that to me is important as well. In these close games, you get Saquon Barkley running downhill right in your face in the fourth quarter for trying to tackle him for 58 minutes. Now you get another 3 runs of Derrick Henry. So, or excuse me, Saquon Barkley. So again, a long way to say, I'm probably taking the Eagles to win over. They're favored right now in 15 games.
Wow.
I mean, I think that I would look over.
The Bills have the same win total here of 11.5. We talked about their easy schedule, at least on paper, easier division, at least on paper. Right now with the Jets retooling, no Aaron Rodgers. We'll see what the Dolphins look like this year. Patriots going to get better, but it does feel like, boy, could you book them for at least 4 wins in the division right then and there at 4-2 at the worst? Maybe 5-1, 6-0 obviously would be the best they can get there. It does feel like it's a playable number to the over, but it is tough out of the division starting off with that Ravens and that rematch on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like a broken record with some of this. I mean, I don't know how you pick against the Bills in a lot of these games. I mean, they're doing the same. So the Bills right now to win the AFC East are minus 260. And I understand that tying up your money in a wager like that is, probably not great. And you probably could have gone a better number a week ago, 2 weeks ago. But I mean, who is winning that division if not Buffalo? I don't see it. I'm not advocating to lay minus 260 on anything.
Right.
That's the reality of it right now. I mean, they're the highest number right now to win the division of any division leader at the moment. So I think it's just telling you right now what we think about Buffalo in that division, and that if you get 6 wins or 5 wins a division, you're winning 10 and 11, 12 games automatically.
Yep. I see it the exact same way. I can only play the over on the Bills. If you made me again, the injury concern for Josh Allen is a thing that would derail a ticket like that. And that's why we don't advocate laying that kind of juice here on a division ticket. But if you said who's going to win the division, I think you and I are in unison. Fears pretty clear cut. They are the class of that division. It's not really close. Are the Chiefs still the class of the West? The Broncos, Chargers making some inroads in that division. 11.5 for the Chiefs. I don't want to bet against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, but Geoff, if there was ever a year they could take a slight step back, is it this year?
Probably, but the thing I'll just say about the Chiefs is Dave, I think like with Kelsey coming back, that to me signals they're going for it still this season.
Mm. Yep.
If he didn't come back, I think I feel differently. But we did this last year where the Chiefs they win 13 games. I'm not betting the under, but this is one of the teams I could see a 10-7 season. I mean, there's
Yep.
I understand. Look, exhaustion happens. Like we see it in sports all the time. We saw in the basketball game with the Nuggets. Like they just get tired at some point. That's the end of it. And there's certainly the Chiefs play 8 primetime games. They play in Brazil on Christmas, on Thanksgiving. It's a taxing schedule. It really is. But their road games are not hard, right? They play in Brazil, play the Giants, at Jacksonville. Their Buffalo's difficult, as we know. When they're at Tennessee, like they're at the Cowboys. I mean, it's a manageable road schedule outside of their division.
Totally. And I'll say this too. They get a big advantage by playing that first game against the Chargers in Brazil. That counts as a home game for the Chargers. And it's a neutral site road game for the Chiefs. So advantage Kansas City, at least in the scheduling court there.
To be fair, the games in Los Angeles are Chiefs home games anyway. So this actually might benefit the Chargers to play a true neutral site game.
You're right. There might have been more KC fans in LA than they're going to be in Brazil. Detroit, we talked about their tougher schedule, at least on paper. That division does feel like, again, we'll see what Minnesota looks like. The Bears have been in year number 1, year number 2 for Caleb Williams. The Packers, we know how good they are. How good are the Lions still? Are they good enough to still win 11 games and get over that win total of 10.5?
So remember I mentioned like the Giants where, the under feels appropriate, but you think about the regression to the mean with just 1-score games. I think the under feels appropriate here for the Lions, right? You lose both
Mm,
coordinators. You sort of had heartbreak last season. How quickly can you bounce back? Plus, if the Packers, their young core, gets a little bit better, right? The Packers just basically lost games to playoff teams last season. That was it, right?
right.
They said that they get better. They steal one week one, and you sort of are on the path. Again, you're at the Bengals early in the season. You're at Kansas City. You're at Baltimore. I mean, it's you're at Philly. It is a beast of a schedule. At Los Angeles Rams, which isn't much of a home game, but it's across the country flight. Like that is a hard schedule. But there's going to be positive regression with injuries, right? You're not going to be injured
Sure.
2 years in a row in the way you were. And so you have to think with a better defense. But again, you lost both coordinators. Like that's a big deal. How do we all talk about how much of a genius Ben Johnson is? Well, now, he's not there anymore. What does that offense look like without him there? We've only seen Jared Goff play well in this system, best of his career. If he's not there, I don't know. So I just would instinctually lean to the under a little bit here. Not a strong play, but that's the way I look at this game. Yeah, or the season. I should say.
About 90 seconds for the Chargers. We mentioned that first game was going to be in Brazil against the Chiefs. 9.5 is that win total. So again, you still see the Chiefs up there as the big boy, but it does feel like they're nipping at their heels a little bit with the Chargers and Harbaugh. What do you expect to see out of Jim and company in year number 2?
Yeah. Well, the Chargers, they win every offseason. I'll tell you that. They're the pick of every offseason. They're the AFC West champions 15 years in a row. Look, I mean, yeah, they're better. I think they got better this offseason, but I got to see them do it. The term chargering is for a reason, right? So I need to see them do this before I think the Chargers will win the division, if that makes sense to you.
It does. I will say I was on them last year at 8.5, and that got over. Did an adjusted win total 9.5 as well. That got home as well. But now that you're setting it at 9.5, the expectations have been raised ever so slightly there with the Chargers. I know they drafted a big running back there. Maybe they're going to get back to ground and pound here and not put all of it on Justin Herbert. They got to keep him healthy. Remember, he got banged up a little bit early in the year last year. So I think if you're a Charger backer and you're going to hit that over, you got to make sure they are protecting Herbert up front. All right, Geoff, when we come back here, every number is out for week number 1 in the NFL. So we'll go through as many games as we can get to next and see if we just have an early opinion in May for games that are going to happen in September. That's next here on the GM Show.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
We are back on the GM Shuffle. Dave Ross and Geoff Schwartz here, presented by DraftKings and VSiN. Geoff, programming reminder, we come to you every Monday here on DraftKings. We're going to come to you on Tuesday next week because of the holiday, everybody. So we will see you Tuesday next week for the GM Shuffle. Everybody have a wonderful Memorial Day, and then we'll catch up with you on Tuesday. I want to get to some of these games, Geoff, here in week number 1. The Thursday night game to kick off the season. Reigning defendings, Philadelphia Eagles are going to host a divisional foe. Not just any foe, America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. They'll open up the season. The number's already sitting there. Eagles 7-point favorites, a total at 46.5. When you look this far out, what do you look for when you see those numbers?
Oh man. I mean, I think I just look to see, maybe where the money comes in quickly, because
Sure.
that's going to be sharp money immediately, right, on these numbers. And we've seen a little bit of movement here and there. But man, it's so funny to see when you compare sort of week 1 college football to week 1 NFL. Like 7 points of college football is nothing. The NFL, it's a lot of points, man. This is a touchdown in the NFL. These games are 3 points. So I just think it just shows you sort of the gap and maybe where Dallas and Philly are at. I can make a case either direction. I don't know if it ever gets 6.5. I'd take Philly if it got there. If it gets 7.5, I think you take Dallas. I think right now you just sit and wait and see if you can get a better number on either side. I think 7.5. If I had to guess, I guess we see 7.5 at some point, and maybe some Dallas money comes in near kickoff and the number goes back down. So it maybe feels right at 7 right now, but you're a Dallas Cowboy fan. I don't know what Dallas is right now. That's what makes it hard to sort of wager on this game. Plus, Philly lost their offensive coordinator. It's always difficult,
Yep.
I think, early in the season to figure out what your offense is with a brand new OC. So a lot of questions there, I think, with this game. I don't have a great, firm grasp on what I do.
Welcome to being a head coach in the NFL, Brian Schottenheimer. Your first game is at the reigning defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. So that's going to be an interesting Thursday night. We mentioned the Sao Paulo game. That's the Friday night game down in Brazil. The Chiefs are 3-point favorites in that one, lower total of 44.5. I kind of lean towards the points here and taking the 3 with the Chargers on a neutral field to give me the 3. That is going to be a grass field, I do believe. Maybe that's advantage a little bit more towards Kansas City. I'm not sure. But what do you make of that number right now with the Chiefs laying 3?
So if this game was in Los Angeles, I think I would take the Chargers all the way. I mean, this is the Chargers Super Bowl each and every time they play the Chiefs. I mean, 3-point game feels like what this game always is, right? Now the game being in Brazil, I try to stay away from the international games. It's just, I mean, it's a weird place you're playing in. You've not played there before. It's week 1. Andy Reid, historically in week 1, has been fabulous. Outside of was the Lions game last year they lost, or 2 years ago when they lost the Lions game? 2 years ago. So last year they won and covered against Baltimore in that game. Lively's toe was out of bounds. I mean, it's so funny that people talk about, well, the Chiefs should have lost that game. Should they have? I don't know. The guy was out of bounds. The Baltimore has to convert the 2-point conversion, right, to win that game. Like, people just assume they're going to lose that game no matter what. That's football, though. So again, I would I'd stay away for now. If this was in Los Angeles, I would take the Chargers, but it's not. So I think you have to stay away.
Giants going to open up the season. We're assuming Russell Wilson is going to be the quarterback for Brian Daboll. We don't know. Got, of course, Jameis Winston. They drafted Jackson Dart. We know who's playing quarterback for the Commanders. That's Jaden Daniels, coming off the Rookie of the Year a year ago. Commanders at home, 7.5-point favorites, 45.5 is the total there. Can you make any case for your former team there in New York?
Aren't they begging you to take the Giants here, aren't they? 7.5. They're begging you to take the Giants. I don't know. I mean, today, no, I can't make a case. I got to see start to quarterback. I got to see. Look, the Giants defense, by the way, is not bad. It's a good defense. But I can't do anything until I see who the Giants quarterback is.
I can't either, but I'd say this, and this might seem counterintuitive to people listening out there. If Russell Wilson is the starting quarterback, I'd probably more apt to take the Giants in the points. A couple of reasons here. One, when he was at Pittsburgh last year, they went to DC and beat the Commanders in, the Commanders having that historical year. Russell Wilson and those guys got them a year ago, and it was not a defensive struggle. They put up 28 points in that win with not a great offense looking back on the Steelers. So he had success there. I do think they'll be more competent offensively if Russell is the early season starter. We'll figure out, Jackson Dart maybe down the road. I think you can make a case for the Giants in week 1 that all the hype is going to be about the Commanders. None of it's going to be about the Giants. That number even could go up. And if you're a Giants backer, just wait. You might be able to get 8.5. And Geoff, at that point, I think it'd have to be on the Giants.
Well, we've also seen Russell Wilson, at least last year, play better early in the season when expectations are not sort of on him. Bright not on him. And I look again. The Giants. I know we're talking about win total is going to be difficult to get over, but they have the pieces to be much better this season. And again, 7.5, guys, is a lot of points in the National Football League. That's obviously over a touchdown. It's hard to win games over a touchdown. So I would lean to the Giants here or pass on it.
Bizarre is betting the Bengals in survivor leagues or wherever you might be doing in week 1s. They just do not play well at the beginning of the year. 5.5-point favorites, house of horrors for them at Cleveland. We all anticipate the Browns being one of the worst teams in the league. Boy, does that feel trappy at 5.5 for the Bengals on the road. I don't know how you back the Browns, but historically, the Bengals have been one of the worst teams in week 1.
I don't know if I could cuss on this show. My dumb butt is going to be in the Browns in week 1 in this game. I know it already. My buddy and I do super contest together. I'm going to text him like at 1:07 p.m. Eastern on that Sunday, cussing him out for making me choose the Browns as they go down 7-0 when Burrow just takes the ball on the open kickoff and just scores in 7 plays. and then have to watch like whoever is at court, Joe Flacco, like just as a statue back there, can't move at all. I mean, but this is like a classic where the entire public's going to be all in the Bengals. They're going to say this is the year they break the early slump. The Browns, I'm going to be on the Browns. I'm telling you, I'm just going to be in the Browns. The division dog, week 1, getting 5.5. It's just a classic zigzag or spot, whatever you want. Contrarian is probably the better way to say contrarian spot. I'm going to hate myself for it, but I will be on the Browns in this game come week 1. I'm probably get 6.5 by then.
By the way, I just love where the mentality is for that conversation, because what Geoff's getting at, if you're new to gambling, the sharp side will be the Browns. Doesn't mean they're going to win.
Oh, absolutely.
But it does mean that the sharp side will be Cleveland. I hope you listen to what Geoff had to say there, because I think it's very smart. The whole world is going to be on the Bengals. And when that happens, normally that's not the side you want to be on. Doesn't mean it doesn't win, but the sharps are not going to be on that side. Sure.
And last year, the sharps got torched. Bad year for the sharps last year. The Jets were a sharp play like every week. They didn't cover ever. The Browns were a sharp play a ton of weeks. They didn't cover like the last 7 weeks of the season. There's the sharp play is not always the right side, but I do feel better being on that side, even if I lose, than the other side.
I think a lot of people the public's probably going to be on Arizona on the road, week 1 at New Orleans. Again, New Orleans could be in the mix for one of the worst teams in the league, at least on paper. Are you trusting Kyler Murray and company to go on the road and cover 3.5?
Ooh, baby. No. But the Saints might be like really, really bad.
Right.
Do we know when like the new Call of Duty drops? Is that around that time? That might make a difference in who I wager on this game. Yeah, it would be the Saints or nothing in this game. Again, one of those sharp square moments, but I could see Arizona typically plays Kyler Murray over his career, has played better earlier than later in the season. You can't simulate Kyler Murray's ability to scramble and make plays in practice. They're still adjusting things under Jonathan Gannon. I could see this game going the Cardinals' way and covering. Won't see my money, but you look at the matchup. I did think the Cardinals could be the team to go in and win and cover as a road favorite. It won't see my money, but I think the Saints are in for a war to hurt this year. Like, you're starting Spencer Rattler or Tyler Shuck. Like, it's not a good situation.
Not at all. The team to beat right now in the NFC South, it's been the Buccaneers now for a couple of years. They're 2.5-point road favorites against Atlanta. That surprises me a little bit on the road. 47.5 high total there. Really good offenses, we believe. What do you make of the Bucs again opening up division game as a road favorite?
Give me a 3. I'm on Atlanta. Tell you that.
Yep.
If I can get it, I'll take it. That's it's that simple. Like, again, I mean, I think Penix is going to be good as a pro. Tampa Bay, we know what they are at this point. But that 3 with that division team, I mean, if I get a 3 day, I'm taking Atlanta.
Let's get to the Sunday night sale, because it might be the best one of the whole slate on the week. That's Baltimore at Buffalo, that rematch we mentioned earlier in the program from last year. Buffalo moving on and eliminating Baltimore. 1.5-point favorites for the Bills. 51.5 is the total. Could be the game of the week. Revenge on the brain. That's a high total, isn't it?
High total. Yeah. This is the total. What? 28, 24 is over, right? I mean, that feels doable. 31-28, 31-27. I'd probably lean Buffalo here at home. I think Buffalo is going to be my pick to win the Super Bowl this year. I think it'll be my pick. They got to beat the Chiefs, obviously, and get through that. But I'd lean Buffalo here more than anything else. But that's not strong enough of anything right now. I'll give you guys a disclaimer now. Like, the one thing you don't have to do is bet on every single game, and especially the primetime games. Like, the less you wager on primetime games, the more money you'll probably make. I know it's fun to have money on those standalone games, but this is it's a pick 'em, right? So just you're picking who wins the game at this point.
It's actually really good advice, because again, just because it's a standalone game does not mean you need to bet it if you don't find the value in that wager. And I think that's to Jeff's point there. It feels like more of a pick 'em. Probably not a lot of value either way there. Jeff, great stuff as always, my friend. I can't believe it. We're past the draft and we're already talking week 1 lines. The NFL, man, it never sleeps. We'll do it again next Tuesday. Right back here on the GM Show.